The day my divorce was finalized, I thought the worst part of my life was finally over. I walked into the office that morning with a strange mix of exhaustion and relief, like someone who had just crawled out of a burning building only to realize they had nowhere left to go. My hands still trembled from signing the last document in the courthouse an hour earlier. 12 years of marriage had ended with a few signatures and a dull stamp on paper. I thought the day would pass quietly, maybe awkward glances from coworkers, maybe silence. But I was wrong, because just before noon, my boss, Rebecca Hartley, walked past my desk, stopped without a word, and quietly said something that froze me in place. She told me to come to her office. Then she closed the door behind us and locked it. What she said next broke something inside me that I didn't even know was still holding together. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us we're not alone in our darkest moments, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these powerful stories alive. My name is Nathan Cole, and at the time, I felt like a man who had quietly lost everything. I worked as a project coordinator at a marketing firm in Denver. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, at least it used to. Back when there were two incomes in the house, my ex-wife, Lauren, had been the one who first pushed me to take the job there 5 years earlier. She said it would be stable, predictable. She liked predictable things. But somewhere along the way, our life together stopped feeling like a partnership and started feeling like a silent competition. Long nights at work turned into longer arguments at home. The warmth we once had slowly drained away until the house felt colder than the Colorado winters outside. The divorce itself was surprisingly quiet. No screaming, no dramatic courtroom scenes, just two people sitting across from each other who had already emotionally left months earlier. When the judge finalized everything that morning, Lauren stood up, nodded politely, and walked away without looking back. I didn't blame her. Sometimes endings arrive long before the paperwork. But walking into work that same day felt like stepping onto a stage where everyone already knew the tragedy had happened. A few coworkers gave sympathetic smiles, others avoided eye contact completely. My friend from accounting, Marcus Bennett, gave me a gentle pat on the shoulder and said he was glad I had gotten through it. I nodded like a robot and stared at my computer screen for most of the morning, pretending to read emails while my mind replayed memories of a life that had just collapsed. That's when Rebecca Hartley appeared beside my desk. Rebecca had been the company's operations director for nearly a decade. She was known for her sharp decisions, calm authority, and a kind of quiet confidence that made people instinctively respect her. She rarely involved herself in employees' personal lives. That was one of the reasons her request caught me so off guard. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't say she was sorry about the divorce. She simply said my name, turned, and walked toward her office as if expecting me to follow. I remember the soft click of the door locking behind us. The sound echoed strangely in the small room. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rebecca stood by the window, looking down at the street below where lunchtime traffic was slowly building. I felt my chest tighten with anxiety. My first thought was that I had done something wrong at work, that maybe the stress of the divorce had caused me to miss something important. My job was the last stable thing I had left. Losing it would mean starting over from nothing. Then Rebecca turned toward me, and the expression on her face wasn't the stern professionalism I expected. It was something softer, something almost sad. She walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and took out a small folder. When she placed it in front of me, her voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. She told me she knew my divorce had been finalized that morning. She said she also knew something else, something that stopped my heart for a second. She knew that for the past 6 months, I had been sleeping in my car twice a week because I was trying to save enough money to keep my apartment after the separation. I had told no one at work, not even Marcus. Somehow she had found out. My face burned with embarrassment as she continued speaking. She told me that pride can sometimes convince us we have to carry pain alone, especially men who believe asking for help makes them weak. Then she said something that shattered the wall I had built around my emotions. She told me she understood exactly what I was going through because 10 years earlier, she had stood in the same courthouse hallway holding the same divorce papers. For the first time, the unshakable Rebecca Hartley looked human. She explained that when her own marriage ended, she had nearly lost everything too. She had hidden her struggles from coworkers, working late nights while secretly wondering how she would pay her rent. The turning point in her life, she said, came when someone in her company quietly helped her without making her feel small. That act of compassion had carried her through the darkest months of her life. Rebecca pushed the folder closer to me. Inside were documents approving a temporary financial assistance program the company had for employees facing personal crises. It covered 3 months of rent assistance and flexible work hours. I had never even heard of the program before, but what broke me wasn't the paperwork. It was the final thing she said. She told me that sometimes the strongest people are the ones who feel completely broken but still show up the next day and try again. She said she had watched my work for years and knew I was one of those people. The words hit me harder than any insult ever could. For weeks I had convinced myself that the divorce meant I had failed as a husband, as a man, and maybe even as a person. Hearing someone say they believed in my strength felt like a crack of light breaking through months of darkness. My vision blurred as emotions I had been holding back since the courthouse flooded to the surface. I sat there in silence, unable to speak, feeling tears I had fought all morning finally escape. Rebecca didn't try to comfort me with cliches. She simply sat across from me and allowed the moment to exist without judgment. In that locked office, something inside me began to heal. The months that followed were not magically easy. Divorce leaves scars that take time to fade, but the support I received that day changed the direction of my life. The rent assistance gave me breathing room. The flexible hours allowed me to rebuild routines that didn't revolve around the painful memories of my old life. Slowly, piece by piece, I started becoming someone new. I spent more time reconnecting with friends I had drifted away from during my marriage. Marcus dragged me to weekend hikes in the mountains. I started volunteering at a community center that helped men going through divorce or family transitions. Listening to their stories reminded me that heartbreak was not a personal failure, it was a human experience shared by millions. A year later, I was promoted to senior project manager. The confidence Rebecca had shown in me became the confidence I slowly learned to show in myself. But I never forgot that locked office door or the moment someone chose compassion instead of silence. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a second to like the video, share it with someone who might be going through a hard time, and subscribe for more stories that remind us humanity still exists in quiet places. And before we reach the ending, I have a small request for you. Please comment the word hope below if you believe that even after life's hardest endings, something beautiful can still begin again. 2 years after my divorce, on a calm autumn afternoon, Rebecca called me back into her office. This time the door stayed open. She handed me a small envelope and smiled. Inside was a handwritten note thanking me for mentoring several younger employees who were struggling with personal problems. At the bottom of the note she had written something I will never forget. She wrote that the kindness we receive during our darkest hours often becomes the kindness we pass forward. Walking out of her office that day, I realized something powerful. The day my boss locked the door had not been the day my life fell apart. It had been the day someone reminded me I was strong enough to rebuild it. And sometimes, all it takes to save a broken person is one quiet moment of understanding behind a closed door.